Welcome back to a brand new Ct.js video. It's been a while, I am sorry for that, but we're back. So today we're going to talk about how to make your very own cookie clicker game. So let's go ahead and create a new project. I'm going to call it Clicker, and I'm actually going to save it. Actually, I already had an attempt, but I screwed up the audio. Let's create a new folder and here and call it Clicker. And we can open that up, and I actually forgot to rename it here. Clicker and save. Okay, now we're prompted with one of these free tutorials that you can follow. Skip that. Let's go ahead and grab a texture. We can actually go ahead and choose any image on the internet and just right click, copy image, and then we can just paste it in, and it avoids you to save as in the directory and then import it from that directory. It avoids you to do all that searching hassle, so you can just copy and paste it directly into your project's folder directory. So you can open that up and call this cookie, and let's go ahead and image to the center, so we can actually center the image's origin to the center of the image. Set it to circle collider, so you can see it focuses perfectly on the cookie. We can save that, and we can go ahead and turn it into a game object, because right now we don't have any templates, we don't have any objects that can be placed inside our game. So we can go ahead to the textures, right click, and create a template from it, and that's become a game object in its own right, other than just an image. Here we can add different sorts of different types of code, different events on creation. We can add actions, as in when you press a button, do something and stuff like that. We'll get back to that, but for now we need to create a world so we can actually place our cookie inside. Here we can go ahead and adjust a few settings. So the first thing you're going to do is set it to main. I'm actually going to give this a custom resolution of 640 by 360, and we're going to set the color to be a sort of bluish tint, sort of light blue, something like that. Right, now we have ourselves our own world. We can go ahead and add in our cookie which is here, and you can see it's way too big right now, so we can go ahead and scale that down with the mouse and selecting it, and then we get this menu. We're going to set it to 0.6 so it's nice and inside of our frame. We can go ahead and disable the grid so we can actually move it around properly to center it, something like that. Perfect. We can save this, and there we go. Now we can go ahead and add some code to our cookie. What we want to do is we want to interact with it, so we're going to add two different events, to two different inputs, if you like. We can go ahead and create a new input from scratch and call this one tap. This is going to be anything that's pressed on the screen, so if you click or you press, or it doesn't matter where you press or what you do, it's going to register that as a click, and also the space button. There we go. Now we have these two events, one that's for the keyboard, and the other one that's tactile, where whatever you touch on the screen, it's going to register it as a tap. Now we need to create a new action, and we're going to call it release, and it's going to be the exact same inputs, because essentially this is as soon as you tap the screen or you press space, it's going to register it as tap. And when you release, it's going to be registered as a release. So these two methods we're going to apply up here. The events, you can go ahead and get the action press, and that is going to be the tap action that we just created, and action release down here, and that is going to be the release, as in the space and the click. They're the same thing essentially. So let's go ahead and add in. Why am I doing that? We don't need that. Okay, just delete that. I'm sorry, my brain got scrambled for a second. So just add tap, okay? And what we're going to do is tap there, and what we're going to do is use tap. Alright, I don't know why, because two different events, to be honest. My brain just got its wires crossed for a second. So this event corresponds to when our tap event is triggered. The tap is obviously anything that's touching the screen, as in anybody who touches the screen, or if you press space, that is going to be your tap event. So those keys correspond to tap, and when we release those keys, as in when we take our finger off the screen or off the space button, it's going to send this, it's going to activate this event. Currently they're both empty, they have no code. So let's fix that. Now remember, we did actually, this is important, we did actually modify this scale so it can fit inside our world to 0.6. So for our case, we need to make sure that when we modify the scale, that its normal scale should be 0.6, not 1. So if you have your own texture and your texture is set to a 1 by 1 scale, then you need to make sure that that's what you rescale it to. Because right now we're going to scale it down when we're touching the screen, so we have a visual input to show that our tap or our input has been triggered. The game knows that we've pressed. So let's go ahead and grab a this.scale .y.x first equals 0.4, and we can actually just copy and paste this because I'm lazy. There we go, this.x equals 0.4. Now when we play this, you'll be able to see cannot read property undefined name. I'll just change the name. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Right, when we go ahead and click down, you can see our scale is modified. When we release, nothing's happening because we haven't actually added any code onto the release event. We've only added code onto the down press event. So the release event is going to be the exact same thing over here, except we're going to reset it to the previous scale. Which would be back to 1 if my image was scaled to 1, but I've scaled it down to 6. So we can modify this back to 6. So this essentially resets it to the previous scale. So let's go ahead and click release. Click release. You can see it's working perfectly. Now we need a score, because what's the point of clicking endlessly and not having any score to prove that we actually clicked a bunch of times? So let's go to our room. And in the event section here, you can actually add the same sort of events. So we can get a room start event. So this is a great way to define all your variables and properties at the beginning of your game. And this is where we're going to define a variable called score. And this variable is going to be equal to 0, because as soon as you start the game, you're not going to have any score, because that would be cheating, you know? The aim is to increase the score. So if you start with 999, it's kind of cheating. So this.score is it's a variable. It responds to a scene variable. So when we go back to our templates, we can't actually call this.score. We actually have to say that we're looking for this score variable inside the room. So let's go ahead and grab ct.room.score. So we're saying look for a variable referencing this object inside the room that's called score. And once we found that, we need to say add, as in modify its value, add to its value. We want to add change it, modify its value to +1, and there we go. Now to make sure this is actually working, we can go ahead and grab console.log, and we can say this.room. I can't type. .score. Okay, so this essentially is going to print out this the score variable that's hosted in our room, and so whenever we release our mouse, it's going to increase it of +1. So let's make sure this is actually working. You can see down here, this is where it's going to print out our score. Nope, cannot read property undefined score. Why not? Hang on a minute. There is a similar thing going on in the lives. This.score plus equals 100. This.score. What is going on? Let's go to the events. Make sure we have spelled it properly. Yes, this.score. Hold on a minute. What's going on? Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I screwed up. Okay. I screwed up. I did this.score. I don't know why I did that. It's nothing to do with this object. It's ct.room.score because we're looking for a variable inside of the room, and the variable is called score, and we're adding +1 to that score every time we run this event. So we're not looking for this.score, we're looking for ct.score. I'm sorry, my brain again once again fried, and I was being stupid. But then again, learning from your mistakes is the only way to progress, so don't be afraid to get things wrong. And now you can see, the more I click, the more our score gets increased, and everything's working fine. Now all we need to do is to add a way to show it up on the actual game itself, not just on the console. So let's go ahead and do that right now. In order to make our text show up on screen with the score, we need to go to the events, and on start room here next to the score, we can actually go under that. We need to add 2 simple lines of code. And if you're lazy like me, then you can actually just open up this sidebar, go down to the Space Shooter tutorial, and let's go down to live, score, and GUI. And over here, it's going to take you to it's very similar to what we will have here. Score equals 0, and what we're interested in is the first 2 lines of code. Oh, these 2 right here. Okay, copy those with Control C and come in and paste them right here. Now we have the creation of a new object called score label, and this is a text object with a score with 2 dots right here, followed by our variable this.score. We've already created this.score equals 0. We can actually put equals 10 if you like, and it will show up with score and then 10 because it's taking that variable's value, which is 10, and then it's placing this score down. So with these 2 simple lines, you can see, you can save that, and we can run it, and we have a score in the top right hand side corner. It says 10, but as we increase, we're not actually increasing the score. So let's go ahead back here, and we can actually modify the style of the text. It's all blurry and ugly font. We can modify that later, but for now let's go back to this sidebar, and as you can see down here, we have 1 line of code. That's all it takes to update our score value. So let's add a new event, start event, which runs every single frame, and we can paste it in here. And as you can see, this is updating the score of this variable every frame. So we can save this, go back, and boom, it's updating the score, as you can see in the sidebar. However, it's starting from 11, and so it's updating from 10. Every time we click, it adds +1 to the initial score, so we need to swap it back to 0, and now it works flawlessly. Also, by default, the text label is set to the top left hand side corner, which is ideal for us because that's where we want to position it. But we can actually modify that, as you can see down here, where it says here, these 2 lines here, that modifies its position on the X and Y, so you can move it across. And then this is the depth if you want the score to, for example, go behind. I can't get it. There we go. If we want, for example, our score to go behind the player, we can set the score to be, for example, -1. No, that's not what I want to do. We want to put that back up there. And now we can go back to our player, and where is it? I think it's set to 0. Depth is set to 0, okay. And we can actually just move it slightly above here and play it. And there you can see our score is going behind our object. So it doesn't actually need to be on top of our the UI layer. Isn't necessarily on top. You can actually put it behind, and you can do a lot of interesting stuff with that. But we don't want to do that. We can add it back for this project. Okay, so what we want to do is actually go ahead and erase that. We want to modify this score's UI, its font, I mean, its color and all that stuff. So we have a UI tab over here. Let's just go and save that, and we have two options: either import our very own fonts, or we can go ahead and create a new text style over here. So we're going to do this one, and we're going to set this one to be called fonts. There we go. It's very stupid. It's very original. Let's go ahead to shadows and make sure it's active, and also augment the font size because you can't see anything, especially for YouTube compression. Set it to huge width. No, 45 looks good. Set it to be on the left hand side because that's what our score is by default. And we can go to fill and gradient. Gradients on white. No, not very useful. Not with a white background. Black and white. We can actually add maybe a pinkish taint to it, and a less strong red. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I don't mind it. And nah, vertical, definitely vertical. Okay, we have a pretty decent thing. So now you can see down here this code. I don't know. I can't modify the tab. We can actually copy this code and go to our new score, and we can paste this in here. And you can see this is just repeating what we have here. We didn't actually need to copy it from the sidebar. You can actually copy it from when you create your actual font, because you're supposed to create your font before you import it. I'm just stupid, so I do things backwards. And over here you can see we have your text here, and we actually added a text and a variable. So what's really important is this. This is what you want. This single couple words here. That's all you want, and then the rest you can delete it because you've already got it all. And what we're going to do is we're going to just paste it right there. Okay, now we can go ahead, save this and run it one last time, and you can see we have an error. Undefined style. Clear. What's going on? Get style. Fonts. That's what I did. What's going on? Why is it not working? Okay. Yeah, that's why I put dot instead of that. Okay, now we start again, and finally, with many mistakes in the process, we have our beautiful font. It's very big right now, so let's go ahead and one last thing is turn it down. Set its weight to be something 500, no, 600. And set its size to be something much smaller so it's not in your face. And we can go ahead and play this, and you can see we have a beautiful cookie clicker game that you can export to all your favorite platforms. And thank you so much for watching. This has been exceptional 3D with a Ct.js tutorial. Maybe I'll do a follow-up with how to save the score, but right now I'm signing off. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again someday.